Sometimes dead is better.
Blood and Black Rum Podcast presents Pet Sematary 2019. Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm Ryan from coldsploitation.com. I'm joined by my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
Back today with a second consecutive episode in a row. It's been a big time at the theater recently. So we've had Shazam, which we did last week. And you know how we always go out there and take on those comic book movies real quick. And then we had, and it was actually the same weekend that the two movies released, but we had Pet Sematary that released on the same weekend as Shazam. So we had to kind of decide, like, which one should we go and see, and it just, some of it was just convenience, and some of it was, I don't know. There was no other decision made, except for, it was like, this is what we're going to do on Tuesday, and then this is what we're going to do next week. But, so we decided that we're going to do Pet Sematary, the 2019 remake for this show. And the funny thing is that we normally try to do, like, the other film before we do the new one. Like Happy Death Day, we did the original Happy Death Day. We didn't skip right to Happy Death Day to You. In this case, though, we've not done the original Pet Sematary.
Yeah, this movie kind of snuck up on us.
Yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, even though it's been in talks for quite a while, and we knew it was coming, we didn't prepare very well.
I didn't pinpoint down the date it was coming out. I knew, I seen the trailers, and I was like, oh, this looks...
I knew it was April, but I wasn't really...
I didn't even know it was April. I thought it'd be like later than that, because usually your horror films, late summer.
Late summer. Child's Play coming out like late June, I think. So, we didn't do much research on this beforehand, so we didn't cover the original film. And just to kind of get into a little bit about that original film, I like the film quite a bit. I find it pretty fun, and though it hasn't aged well in certain aspects, especially its some of its special effects work, I think that for the most part it's a pretty entertaining movie. And Martin had said previously that he thought it was fairly cheesy. And you didn't think it was intentional, right? It was more like it was more like now that it's 30 years later.
Yeah,
it's pretty cheesy.
And I haven't seen Pet Sematary in about 15 years. So, even, 15 years after the fact, the effects and tone of the film kind of had evolved into unintentional cheesy.
I think one of the biggest things that stands out to me is, like, just some of the line deliveries in that original film.
Well, not only that,
the dialogue itself.
Not only that, Fred Gwynne, though an iconic actor, don't want to go down that road. Sometimes that is better. Iconic and kind of like John Wayne's iconic.
Right. Yep.
Not a terribly great actor.
No, I mean he really
just like John Wayne.
He had success in niche things, but not like
his best acting role is My Cousin Vinny, and that's a great movie,
Yeah, like, most of his things didn't really require him to be a good actor. They required him to be able to get into a role well. So, like,
have a presence.
As Fred Munster, he had to get into a role consistently throughout however many episodes the Munsters had. But no one would say, like...
too damn many.
Yeah, no one would say, like, as Fred Munster, he was, like, a great actor. He's not going to win any Golden Globes for it. And so, yeah, I agree. I think, like, some of it does come down to the sort of memes that have been made out of Fred Gwynne just delivering those lines.
The best one is South Park. Right. When the old man comes, just like, I think his first appearance is when they go to Aspen for skiing, and they're getting ready for the ski competition. Stan doesn't know what to do, and he comes out, he's like, you don't want to go up that road. A lot of bad things happen up on that mountain. There's an Indian burial ground up there. And I think he shows up in the Christmas in Canada episode, and then
so those things have really become, like, made the movie sort of a meme in itself, because of the association. Mm-hmm. And one of the interesting things about Pet Sematary, the original, though, was that it was directed by a woman. It's one of the few horror movies that were ever directed by a woman, Mary Lambert. Now, she's sort of pulling what you might consider a George Lucas revisionist thing with the new release of Pet Sematary on 4K Blu-ray. Now, it's not as big as George Lucas's, but she's going back and sort of revising some of the graphics and the special effects work that was done, so that it can look a little bit updated for the 4K Blu-ray. A lot of people do think that's dumb. So she changed things like the sky. She changed some of the cat's eyes in the original. Just things that they couldn't accomplish when they did the original film. And so a lot of people do think, like, from a revisionist standpoint, just leave it be. You know, even if it does look kind of weird on a 4K Blu-ray or ultra high definition now, you just leave it. Because it is what it is, and that's what makes the film a film, right? You don't get a second chance at it unless you do a remake like we were talking about for 2019. And one other thing that I'll point out, because we're not doing a whole episode on the original Pet Sematary, but one other thing I'll point out is that the character of Zelda in the original Pet Sematary, very effective. That's one of the things that really stands out. You might call it cheesy from today's standpoint, but that original Zelda character is actually very creepy, and it's sort of an accident that even occurred. So they didn't really have anybody for Zelda as a character. They had a guy on set. They asked a guy to play Zelda. Wouldn't you know it? It actually became a lot more scary than they would have even expected, because this guy was able to sort of give an unrealistic and sickly aspect to a woman. And so I think Zelda is probably the stuff of nightmares for many people, including my wife, who I like to torment. And I used to torment her with when I used to have an iPod Touch, which is going back a little ways. I used to have an iPod Touch, and I just randomly put Zelda as my screensaver on at one time and stuck it in her face. And yeah, it scares her for quite a while. So I think Zelda itself is sort of a lasting icon from Pet Sematary, which is kind of interesting because Zelda has really no bearing on the actual literal Pet Sematary part of the film. But she's sort of like a subplot within that film. So yeah, I think we'll end it there on talking about the original Pet Sematary. We may eventually do it at some point on the show, and I don't want to go into it in complete detail, but suffice to say that I am a fan of the original Pet Sematary. One thing is surprising, I've actually never read Stephen King's novel. I have not gotten around to that yet.
It's probably like a 1,500 page.
No. This is actually one of his shorter pieces of fiction, and so yeah, I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I know that Michael on Cultsploitation actually did a video comparison of the difference between the book and the movie. So if you want to check that out, that's up on our website and on our YouTube page. So give that a look. But let's get into Cultsploitation. You're on Cultsploitation. You're listening to Cultsploitation. This is Cultsploitation's podcast. No, let's get into Pet Sematary 2019 a little bit for the intro. So going into Pet Sematary, what did you expect? Were you expecting anything at all, or
John Lithgow?
That was it. That was like your main motivation.
That's
like,
my point.
John Lithgow's in this movie. I gotta check it out.
Yeah, I was interested in seeing like what the remake was going to be like, but it's like, mainly just like, oh, they got John Lithgow, gonna watch it.
Side note: have you ever seen Raising Cain?
No.
You should really check it out. This is a good John Lithgow movie. Very good John Lithgow movie. I'll loan that to you as well. But that's just a little side note that you should check that out. Definitely a good one from him. But John Lithgow, yeah, that's always something, John Lithgow signs on, and he's actually given a couple of interviews about why he thinks the original Pet Sematary was effective. And so when John Lithgow signs on, you're like, all right, I'll give it a go. One thing I gotta know,
and he's entering the stage now of his career where he's just gonna do whatever
sort of the Malcolm McDowell stage,
just do whatever the hell he wants. That's why he's like in Daddy's Home too,
yeah,
with like Will Ferrell, Mel Gibson.
Now, one thing I have to question, because I haven't seen him in a while, is he really looking as old as he does in Pet Sematary? Or are they making him up a little bit? I think they
because
they've given him like
because I was saying in Daddy's Home too. He looks fine with like.
That's what I thought.
with like Will Ferrell, Mel Gibson. He looked, that was only like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I was a little concerned.
No, I think they just made him look like a backdoor mainsman.
I think so. Yeah, I was hoping so. I was hoping like they just made him look a little bit like dirtier and grungy because he, this is just the kind of guy he is. He's an outdoor guy. He's like constantly picking around in a pet cemetery in the woods and swamps. So I guess they just wanted him to be looking a little bit gruffer for this movie. The other thing that I wanted to point out, though, about John Lithgow is that if I ever get a white beard like that just has a little bit of coffee stain in the middle of underneath my lips like that, just make me shave that. Because that's what he has going on.
You don't want to be like Uncle in Red Dead and have like a nice like tobacco stain in your beard?
No, yeah, because that's exactly what John Lithgow has going on in here. He's got, nice, thick, full white beard, and then right under his lips, there's just like a little yellow spot.
Or a cigarette.
Perhaps. I don't want that. I never want that. So I'm going to shave that part off. If that ever happens, or if it grows in and I like have one patch of red hair in my white beard, I'm shaving that shit. So, just wanted to point that out as well. Other than that, though, for Pet Sematary, like not a whole lot of like well-known names in this one.
They got low rent, just like with Shazam having low rent Paul Rudd impersonator. We got like Chris Pine impersonator or Chris Pratt. I mix the two fucking up all the time.
When you're saying Chris, so
the guy from Parks and Rec.
Okay, Chris Pratt.
Okay,
yeah.
So Chris Pratt. Oh, yeah, Chris Pine's from Star Trek.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Too many fucking Chris Pine,
Wonder Woman.
Yeah. So Chris Pratt from Parks and Rec is the dad in here.
Yeah. Like
with a slightly southern accent, which doesn't make any sense because he's from Boston.
Yeah, I did note that as well. He had a very strange accent that didn't really correspond with Maine. Doesn't really correspond with Boston.
New England area.
Yeah, it's not really yeah. But that's Jason Clarke, and I don't know him very well. I know that he's been in things, but I don't know him. I don't know him that well. I think he some of his bigger things were like Zero Dark 30. He was in Terminator. Oh yeah, that's right. He was in Terminator Genesis. He was John Connor in Terminator Genesis, which having seen that movie 4 years ago, I can't believe I forgot it. Because it made such an impression on us when we saw it the first time.
It's one of the longest episodes we've ever done. Actually, to be honest with you, I think it's our longest. I think it is our longest episode. Yeah. That or Batman v Superman.
Yep.
Because that runs in like to nigh on 3 hours.
Yeah. So he was in that. Then you have Amy Seimetz, I think is how you pronounce it. But I could be wrong. It could be Seimetz. And I do know her from a couple things. She was in You're Next, which is the one that stands out to me the most. Being the one of the characters that's killed off in You're Next. But other than that, not really anybody that I recognize too much.
I don't know why, but for her role in Alien Covenant, I thought it said farts instead of Ferris.
All right.
Looked like it said farts.
And then the rest of your cast is sort of like younger people because you have the kids. You have Ellie and Gage, and neither of them are really super well known. And that's pretty much it for. I mean, you have some secondary characters.
Which, by the way, one thing I've noticed over the years, which I haven't brought up to attention, but it's something I have noticed just because of this film. Bless you.
Thank you.
From other films. Remember how back in the day when you're watching a movie and you get the opening credits and it's going through your cast of characters and you get to the and? Mm-hmm. That and is reserved for the new person coming in.
What, you mean like previously?
Yes.
Like how it used to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that and it's reserved to the big name guy that's, just on for the supporting role.
Right.
Yeah. So like in this, it's like Jason Clarke, Amy Seimetz, and John Lithgow.
That's been like sort of the big thing now.
Let's say with Ant-Man, it's like Paul Rudd and so and Michael Douglas.
Yeah. It's like the person who really they could only sign on to the movie if they got the and. Right? Like
I said, it used to be back in the day. That and was reserved for someone new,
right?
Like it'd be and introducing, or and so and so,
yeah,
from like other work that hasn't gotten that's kind of like a more of a
if they were coming from music to a movie or something like that,
or like it's like kind of more like a character actor, like so like they play like certain like so they known for playing a certain like type of archetype. They would get that and tacked on as like that supporting character who's like that kind of archetype.
I think even in Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, Paul Rudd gets an and introducing Paul Rudd. Well, he actually does not go by Paul Rudd. It's his full middle name there. It's like Paul Thomas Rudd or whatever. I made that up. I don't know if that's his middle name or not, but it sounds good.
Sierra Nevada. Paul Sierra Nevada Rudd.
Yeah, so, I mean, John Lithgow does get that and credit here.
I don't know. It's weird, but it's just something I've noticed over the years now. Like that, your big name actors are who are signing on for these smaller supporting roles, or if that was like Robert De Niro in that role, it would say and Robert De Niro.
Yep. So I will admit that I didn't have much faith in a Pet Sematary remake. It's not that I wasn't even like I had like low expectations, is I was really just not super intrigued either way. I was just like, okay, Pet Sematary remake's coming out.
I say I lean more to the positive for once. Just because the recent string of remakes have been on the good side and been put in the hands of people who actually like and know the original material.
Yeah.
I thought...
Yeah, it's it's different from like the Miramax 2000s era remakes where it was just like sort of lifeless.
Just pumping out Texas.
Now, you know what's taking that place? Biopics of music acts.
I know.
Now those are like sort of lifelessly pumped out.
Well, that's what I told you when we saw the Elton John trailer for, Rocket Man. I said, I go, so what is this, like going to be like the new 21st century version of Behind the Music? They're just going to start pumping out biopics of musicians, and it's just gonna be, he was a geek, and then he changed and found stardom, and drugs took him down.
Yeah, that's what it's gonna be. And like I said, there's already a Rocket Man movie anyway. They can't take that one. So,
I think the Ellen John one. I haven't seen Bohemian Rhapsody. I just know from watching videos of it on YouTube, the editing, and it looks fucking atrocious because they jump cut every 2 seconds. But I think Elton John probably lived a more biopic-worthy life than Queen's Run. Yeah,
at least in China. All that censoring. All right, so Pet Sematary. You want to leave it at that for now for the intro, and we'll move on.
After your little joke there, yeah, we kind of have to move on. That was
Woo, a doozy. That was a doozy. All right, so so we have a beer on the show today that actually corresponds with the film, and we did that on purpose. There are 2 beers that have been featured in...
At least that we saw.
Exactly. They were featured in Pet Sematary, the 2019 version. I can't speak to the original because I don't remember that far back for that. But one of those beers is Hamm's, and that's a beer that Judd, the character John Lithgow plays, shares with Jason Clarke's character, Lewis. We couldn't get Hamm's.
I know places around here that have it, and it's a cheap beer.
Right.
And
very generic style, like PBR style.
I think it's owned by Coors Miller. I'm pretty sure it is. It's kind of like their like a Busch Bavarian for them.
That's like it's tough to find though. I don't know that I've ever seen it myself.
Well, the convenience store I went to used to have it. They didn't have it though, but Price Chopper does have it in 30 packs. And 18 packs.
We did try. We tried to get Hamm's. It just didn't happen. So we went with the next best thing, which is also featured in literally one shot in the film that I happened to catch when watching. And it makes sense because it is
a Maine
brewed beer. It's Allagash White. Now, Lewis is drinking this in a pivotal scene. And so it does make sense in a way for us to have Allagash White on the show. We've never had it on the show before. Never really gone out of my way to get Allagash. Tends to be a little bit more expensive for our region, for one thing.
I've only seen a couple. I've only seen like the Belgian White. I think triple, and I think an IPA.
Possibly. I really have only had the Allagash White that we have on the show right now. I don't think I've ever tried anything else from Allagash. But it is a very popular style in New England. I know because I used to live there for a while, and a lot of people from there do like Allagash. It's a popular, even though it's, I guess it would be considered a smaller brewery. Still pretty popular for the region. Gets its name featured in Pet Sematary, so that's always a plus. And it's a Belgian style, so everyone knows that Maine makes really good Belgian style beers, right? It makes sense. But Allagash is the white is a Belgian style wheat beer. It's brewed with coriander and curacao orange peel. Now, curacao orange peel, I have no fucking idea what kind of orange that is. I don't know that I've ever had one before, but we can suffice to say that it's basically orange, like a regular orange. Now, the coriander in the Allagash White...
it just means D.D. Gregorius approved of it.
Yeah. Now, the coriander in the Allagash White really comes out. And that's something that does make a good Belgian-style wheat beer. The coriander element. You want to have
Which makes why Blue Moon is such a terrible...
Exactly.
Example.
It's very generic.
Same thing with Shock Top.
Down.
It's, totally missing that nice coriander spice.
That coriander spice is totally non-existent, and if you don't have that, you really don't have a Belgian-style wheat beer. It's, I don't know what it is. It's like a beer with oranges in it.
What a perfect blend. Just like the orange and the coriander.
Yeah.
Get that nice citrus sweetness and a nice little, slight spice to it. I love it. I love Belgian styles.
It is really good. And Allagash does make a good, a very good rendition of the Belgian white style. Again, like I said, surprising for a Maine brewery. And probably...
Well, not so... I would say, it is surprising, but at the same time, the biggest fucking Belgian brewer probably in the
New York, New England region?
Not even New York, New England. Probably in the country outside of New Belgium is fucking Allagash.
Yeah.
And you could say even more so that even though New Belgium probably pumps out more because they're owned by Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
Allagash's owned by the Duvel Morton gut, so they can at least trace. They're the ones that pump out Duvel, the nice, amazing Victory Ale that is absolutely fantastic.
The other thing about Belgian-style breweries is that...
I was going to say, too, and if the Yankees sweep the Red Sox right now, I'll go out to the store and buy me a fucking bottle of Duvel to celebrate.
The other thing about Belgian-style breweries is that if you're ever on campus, you know it's a Belgian-style brewery.
Yes.
Because you smell that. The yeast that they're using and the coriander, you can smell it all. It's very, very potent. But Allagash does a really good job at creating this Belgian-style wheat beer. And I have really no bad things to say about Allagash, except for the fact that the beer that we got today was a month out of date. So that tells you all you need to know about how many people are drinking Allagash in our region. Not very many.
Well, they're probably like, that ain't an Iroquois name.
Yeah.
I ain't drinking that.
It's not a popular style in our area, but Allagash does do a good job. And I like their wheat.
No, in fact, the girl that rang me up was kind of bitchy about when I was buying it.
Why?
She's like, ID?
Oh. She didn't know you personally.
No. But she didn't say, like, please, I was getting ready to take it out, too. But, yeah, she was kind of bitchy.
Just a slight diatribe about how you were
harassed
by this woman. Yeah. So Allagash White, check it out. You'll see it in Pet Sematary. I think it happens about, I would say, an hour and 15 minutes into the film that you see it on the table. So keep a lookout for that. And Hams occurs very early on. It's like the first 15 minutes, I would say.
No.
You think it's farther than that?
Way later than that. It's like an hour in.
No, it's not that far.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think so.
No, it's because it's when they're discussing bringing the cat back.
Maybe.
And that takes, you may be forgetting, it takes a long time to build up to that. They got a lot of canoodling to do about the house in Maine and the nice little barn house.
It's true. Yeah, maybe it is an hour. But Hams is also in there. It happens before Allagash.
Not prominently featured like in the OG My Bloody Valentine with Moosehead.
No, it's a pretty quick. If you blink, you miss the actual label.
But they were goddamn. They were really. They made damn sure they got every shot. You got to see that goddamn Volvo. Front end.
Yeah.
To know that, hey, he drives a Volvo.
Yeah, sometimes I'm surprised that they didn't go with like one of those really stock beers that they use that aren't really an actual beer. Like I think one of them is like Kaiser or something like that. I was
gonna say this whole thing is just like kind of filled with like plugs.
Oh sure. Nowadays every movie is
I know,
when
they like pull into the house and the way they park in the driveway, it's like you're not in a fucking commercial. You're parking your car sideways with like the logo. Volvo.
Sure, I'm
just
surprised they didn't have like on the front of the lawn says like this house secured by ADT, something like that. Just like another.
Oh, that would be great with the opening. You see like the blood stains in the car and the beeping like ADT here.
Yeah.
Sir, ma'am, is everything okay?
Fit one more in there. Just so you can get another reference in there.
Oh. Hell, they got cameras hooked up, so they'd be able to check in. They'd be like, the guy running, they'd be like, oh, I'm going to lose my job. Running down the hallway.
All right, so let's get into Pet Sematary a little bit here. We're talking about the 2019 Pet Sematary, obviously. And so this remake is really what I believe that this remake follows fairly closely the original film for quite a while in terms of the whole setup of the plot. So you have a family moving into this new house in Maine.
Nice barn house.
Yep, nice barn house. They've actually it's like what is it? Is it a red bricked house or is it a faux brick? Because remember they show it and it's very red.
It's red, but it's not brick.
It's not brick. It's like faux brick.
I was gonna say it's totally like a barn house. It's got the metal sheet roofing. And,
but it's a nice place. It's a very nice place.
Oh, totally.
So you're like,
except for the fact, as I pointed out to you, that it's 3 inches from the fucking road. That apparently the DOT in this area thought it'd be a good idea to have fucking Sammy Hagar put the speed limit up, and it's 65.
Yeah, and the thing with this is too that Lewis and Rachel, the parents, they have 2 kids. There's 2 rather small kids. They have
a 2-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Yeah, Ellie who's 9 and Gage who's 2. And so you're thinking like when they talk to the realtor's like, "You have small kids?" And they're like, "Yeah, we do actually." I'm like, "I know a perfect place for you. It's 2 feet from the road, 65 on the interstate there." Constantly trucks are passing by going to the warehouse.
Let's say your house is totally covered in shrubbery.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
You know
where?
It's like it's a nice house nestled away in the woods, but you got the freeway.
You know what the real evil is in horror movies? The realtors, because they don't care if it's really the greatest house for you. They're just trying to get their own commission.
Why would they? These assholes live around Derry. They know what goes on around here.
That's true, too. They're just like, this is the least evil house of the Derry houses.
Let's say, look, the fucking Pennywise is coming back soon to feast on children.
That's true. That's true. If you're a realtor, you probably at one point just throw up your hands like, the house is available again? I gotta sell this thing? This is like the 3rd time this month. Yeah, I would assume it's pretty tough work being a realtor in Derry. People are asking, like, so who lived here before? Well, they don't live here now. They're not even with us anymore.
They decided to move to Montana. Really wanted to get out to the big sky country,
Yeah.
They decided they wanted to settle on that ranch life.
But this realtor in Pet Sematary obviously was not thinking very well because not only is there a little like trucking lane right outside their house, but then there's a vast uncharted swamp in the backyard as well. Past the Pet Sematary with all the creepy crosses on it. There's a swamp back there. It's like, you kids like to play in swamps? It's a great place for you guys. And head on back to the swamp land.
I almost feel like though where the Indian burial ground is. And when they're walking through up the steep rock incline steps.
Yeah.
I don't think that's actually there. I think that's more like kind of going into
a different plane.
Yeah. A plane of existence.
It kind of seems like that. So like the whole element of the Pet Sematary is like the Pet Sematary's there. And it obviously has mystical properties that people believe in. Like, they believe in, like, burying their pet there for whatever reason. Because it's sort of been this place that has a mystical property to it. People feel it. But if they go a little bit further, they go into...
Climb up that, Pennywise's little hut from It.
I think the remake they would call that, like, a barrow. Right? If I'm using that term. I think it's a barrow. Like, just a fucking massive, like...
pile of
a 15-foot beaver came through and fucking piled all these sticks into one big-ass pile. If they go past that, then you get into, like, territory of, like, a Native American swampland and...
I think when they do that, it's like it seems like they're entering a different plane.
I would agree. I would think like you would have to assume that, because otherwise it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to just all of a sudden, like, if I have a swamp in my backyard, if I go back there, am I just going to be like walking on skulls and stuff? No one's come around and be like, police. There's a little bit of an issue back here. There's like 15 skulls in the swamp. A little concerned of what might have gone on back here. Manson had stopped by here before. I agree. I think we have to kind of sort of take it as a mystical element, and I think it works a little bit more in the film's advantage too, because then that CGI doesn't look as bad.
Well, you don't think John Lithgow is going to like a summit with like real thunder and lightning crashing down, and
I mean, I thought that the whole element of going up on this burial ground, a special burial ground, and building a cairn, which is basically just a rock burial mound. I think it jives with the original. I don't remember it being like that far back from the Pet Sematary.
No, it was more.
I may be.
I think it was more. I think it is more out in the open too.
Yeah.
Same thing. It wasn't like this big wooded area,
right?
So I think the fact that in this remake, like, well, they're in Maine.
Yeah,
make it like and they made it more woodsy and.
Plus, in the portal that we see when they go into it, all the trees are like missing all their leaves.
Yeah.
And one of the big things in this film that doesn't even fucking make sense is that apparently it takes place sometime in October/November, because we see Halloween and it's not fucking cold out. And this is Maine we're talking about. It's going to be snowy and cold and all that shit. All the leaves have fucking... All the trees have their leaves out.
No, not as snowy.
No, it's not as...
It's by the ocean, so
true.
It's going to be...
But the whole thing is that this doesn't look like autumn in Maine either. So,
I don't know how many conifer trees they have up there. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
But,
bringing that in.
Well, I don't know.
I'm a horticulturalist.
Look, I've never been up to Maine, so I couldn't tell you, Mr. New England, Mr. I was too good for Oswego, and it's bitter winters. No, I don't know. So,
but I do agree though that it has to be like, because you see all the trees that are sort of like stripped of their leaves, and then once you get back to regular Maine, the leaves are there. So it's got to be someplace outside of the normal world.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. But basically that's the gist of it. So you have this house that they go to, they're living in. Jason Clarke's character Lewis wants to get away from the busy city life because he's an ER doc.
Boston is just the biggest fucking bustling town in the world.
Well, and he's an ER doc, so he's constantly working nights and night shifts and weekend shifts, and he's not home for his 9-year-old.
Oh, so when he signed up, when he decided to be like $400,000 sunken in debt from school, he never thought like going to be an ER surgeon.
Well, the
I gotta stay nights. God damn!
I think the funny thing is like you don't have to move away from the city to not have to work nights on an ER shift.
Or to the suburb or something.
Yeah, or like don't even try to get out of the ER. You don't need to be an ER doc. You can do whatever you want. You can be another doctor.
So how'd that work? You went from like an ER surgeon to
like college campus
general practitioner?
Well, I'll tell you how it works. You go from making $400,000 a year to making $40,000 a year on the college campus. Yeah, dealing with STDs most of the time and nosebleeds.
Well, you got gonorrhea. Good news is penicillin's in it. So
that's right. Yeah.
Take a couple of these and it'll go away.
So you have Lewis. So the bigger,
and I guarantee he's getting paid more than $40,000.
I was just joking. Yeah, I mean, definitely more like $80,000. But still nothing compared to like an ER doc in a.
Where's
Disney City.
butternut squash crinkle cut fries as a ER doctor to show him?
Yes. So Pet Sematary sets up this idea that they're moving. They want to get away from the big city. They want to like have a nice little quiet, nestled home. And Rachel gets to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom, caring for Ellie and Gage.
I feel like she wants to begin with because they don't ever bring up what her.
That's true. She's never really had a career, so we don't know.
It's so depressing.
So they're settled in, and the biggest issue and the big theme that comes up throughout Pet Sematary is, what do you believe in terms of death? Do you believe in telling your kids about death? Do you think like should you just explain it?
Is there God?
Is there a God? Is there not a God?
Which I will say, weakest part of this film.
Having that discussion about God.
Because it doesn't work. You have Rachel, who's like, I believe in an afterlife and heaven and all that, which is fine. But then Lewis is like, I'm Mr. Science, I'm Mr. Doctor, and when you're dead, you're fucking in the ground, you're warm food, there ain't no other afterlife, doop-a-doop-a-dee. And then, like, just like on a dime from events that happened, he's like, I'm gonna use magic to
come back. Yeah. So I think that brings us to a really interesting point about Pet Sematary.
Because there's no like actual like you don't get to see his like thought process and then like trying to deal with that. Rachel's very solid on her point throughout the film. His jump is more just
it happens and then he's like, oh, okay,
which you could argue with. You could argue the point, well, he's in grief and he doesn't know how to deal with it, so out of character thing. But at the same point, if you're going to bring up this, like, stereotypical, I'm Mr. Science and I don't believe in that nonsense, you should probably, have a little bit more inner strife being shown by him in making that decision, on to do that. And it doesn't help either that. And I don't remember, like I said, it's been 15 years since I've seen the original, so I can't make comparisons, and I don't remember what the fuck Fred Gwynn does, showing going to Pet Sematary and showing that shit, but, so, Judd also kind of seems like out of character, too, for him to be showing him the goddamn Indian burial ground for the cat to bring it back, and all this other stuff, because it seems like, taboo stuff he wouldn't want to touch, too.
I think what happens in Pet Sematary is that it takes a really long time to lead up to anything. So it takes the film...
like 45 minutes?
Yeah, until the initial thing happens, and that's with the church to cat. It takes a really long time to get to that point. So you have a lot of setup where Lewis has dreams. He has bad dreams about a kid that got hit by a car on his campus. And
creatively named Victor Pascal. Pascal's Wager.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
you were looking at me like you didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. So I almost wanted to in the theater, but there's actually people seeing this film. If it was like Shazam, I would have probably burst out laughing like, ha, I get it, just like a dumbass because it's like it's on the note, like because it happens literally right after the conversation they have about is there
right, exactly. Yeah,
and for those of you who don't know, Pascal's Wager is basically if you don't believe in God and there isn't, it's better to believe in God even if there is no God, because if you believe in God and there is a God, you'll be saved. If you believe in God and there is no God, you won't, there's no problem in you believing.
Right.
But if you don't believe in God and there is no God, same thing. But if you don't believe in God and then there is a God, you're going to hell because you're not being saved. So you're hedging your bets,
Just believe.
on your soul.
Just believe.
Yeah.
So, but I think that it takes so long to lead up to the point where even Church is killed, and you find out on Halloween night that Church is dead. He got hit by a car, and
Probably one of those damn oil rigs.
that's right. Just giant bulldozing through.
They got to meet their, deadlines.
I think that it takes so long to get there that you have the lead up where you have Lewis being the stoic who's like, no, there's no God. I just think once you die, and that's it. And you have Rachel being that person who has been so... Her belief isn't even really a belief in God so much as it is a fear that there is not something else. Because...
Of what happened with her and her sister.
Exactly. And so you have those two disparate ideas, and that does make up for a fairly good theme. But then once you get to Lewis and Judd actually putting Church in the ground and Church comes back, there's not really much time for Lewis to think on, like, what the fuck happened with Church and why is he back. He just all of a sudden believes, okay, they must come back from the dead.
Yeah, and the fucking cat looks rabid as hell.
Right.
If the cat came back and sit in the closet and, like, hissing and growling, but that's not the cat. Okay, Ellie, we're gonna go to school. I'll see you later. And then you take the cat out back and you fucking beat it with a baseball bat.
No, I agree. I would not invite that cat back in.
That's just like the funny...
Just the way that it looks right now.
It's just hilarious. Like, oh, Church is back! Yeah. Oh, he looks like he's rabid!
Because the original Church the cat is fucking cute as hell. Just the cutest cat. And then you get the other Church that comes back, and you're like, there is clearly something wrong with this cat. Yeah. They're like, not even just that it was dead and now it's not, but it's more like, no, it got bit by a fox. It's fucked up. And, you old yeller that.
Yeah, you old
and that's it.
Judd's got a revolver in his,
There ain't no way that I'd be letting that, like, cat just sleep with my kid. Yeah. That's terrible parenting 101 right there. But so the other question that brings up is, like, do you talk about death with your kids? Do you actually bring it up and say, like, yeah, Church died and sometimes bad things happen and I'm sorry, or do you just say, like, the cat ran away? And so Rachel, Amy Simons' character, is under the impression that it's better to just not tell the kid, because then you're opening things up to having to explain things. She's going to ask, well, where does the cat go? And you're going to be like, I don't know.
I was going to say, if you haven't learned anything from children, no matter what you say, there's always going to be a why attached to
absolutely.
It's like that Louis C.K. bit where he says he's staying for like 5 hours. He's just sitting, explaining things to his kid because he'll say like something that like, why? And then so it's because of this. Why? Because of this. Why? And
they normally get to the most uncomfortable aspects of it too. So they're going to ask you things like right away that you don't have an answer to. So I think that's where Rachel comes in. She's really uncomfortable about answering those questions. They bring up those bad memories of Zelda. And in this film, Zelda actually has more of a presence than in the original film. So the original Zelda...
So what is she plagued by?
It
looks like she's plagued by the Exorcist.
She has like meningitis, like, or something like that. Something similar that affects your spine. I think it's like spinal meningitis, or
I've had that and that wasn't fun.
Something like that, where she wasn't treated and she just progressively got worse. And so in this film, they don't really...
How's she not dead then?
Well,
I know there's different types.
Yeah, they don't really go into it in this movie so much, but I believe that it was I think she had like meningitis or something else that's similar. Spinal meningitis. Yeah, that's what she had. She had spinal meningitis, and so it progressed to the point where she really just like did not get better. And so in this film, and actually in the original Pet Sematary as well, but especially in this film, they really bring up the point that Rachel was sort of the problem and what caused Zelda to actually die, because she fell down a dumbwaiter that wasn't working correctly, and that sort of has caused her to have all of these really bad memories of death. and she feels like she's responsible for that death.
Still kind of a dumb premise, but...
Well, I don't know that I totally agree with... Well, I don't have to agree, but I don't know that I understand Rachel's mindset that she believes in God when this terrible thing happened to Zelda. You would think sort of the opposite. You would think
she's like 7.
True. But as adult Rachel, I would think maybe the opposite. I would think like, well, maybe there is no God because like, what the fuck happened with my sister? Why would a God allow my sister to have terrible spinal meningitis and fall down a dumbwaiter?
But at the same time, they say later on that she like prayed for her sister's death because
she actually wanted her to die
because Zelda was mean and bitchy and
scary.
Yeah,
fucking terrifying.
Well, again, she was contorted. I don't like. I mean, when I had meningitis, I wasn't contorted like that. I just couldn't fucking move my neck. It was locked straight up, and then I had to get a spinal tap.
I can imagine that would be pretty awful, and you'd just be like miserable all the time.
No, I do too.
If my sister...
I still don't understand how the hell she fell down the fucking dumbwaiter. Like, was it because she's all crippled and walking like a zombie? And
I think like so. What happened that they show
and she
us,
went to open the door and then she just went and like
what they show us was that she wasn't supposed to use the dumbwaiter because it didn't work properly. So she sent the dumbwaiter up, didn't get up all the way. Zelda went in to reach for the tray because the dumbwaiter was down too far, and then she fell in. And I think that it makes for a good image.
No, it does, but I still think the whole I didn't.
It wasn't explained that well, and it also takes just such a long time for something that's more just of a scare payoff than anything that relates to the plot. That I think that again, like they should have used some of this time to delve into what both of these people believe and the differences between them, and why that theme makes sense in the film.
Yeah, because if you're gonna put that out in the open, you kind of have to. There's no point in putting it like I have this belief, I have this belief, and then like have no payoff.
And then I think that
the only one that has a payoff on is Rachel.
Yeah,
because at the end when she says like I don't fucking put me in that cemetery.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she understands like. It's not good. But once you get to the end of the film, I feel like the theme really gets lost, especially the original intention of Stephen King's story and the original film.
Sometimes dead is better.
Right. The theme that like though you might think you want to bring somebody back, you don't. Like and this isn't even like something Stephen King wasn't saying like as a theological issue. It's more just like a moral issue. Like, do you we have something that happened?
We have a story that does this better. It's called Full Metal Alchemist.
Sure. But I think
sure. Have you've seen Full Metal Alchemist?
But
that's the whole point of the goddamn show.
It is. But I think, so in the original and in Stephen King's story, the real idea is that he can't deal with the grief that he has, and so that grief causes him to bring things back. And the real moral is that was not the right thing to do. And though, it helped his grief and it helped him cope, he made things like way, 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 way worse. And the ending of this Pet Sematary, that's not super clear on what the film really wants you to think about what happened here.
I think it's more just to kind of be like, ooh.
Right, exactly. Yeah. There's more of like it's a bad ending. Yeah. And, it's more of a, they don't really come up with a moral theme or a moral like message at the end. There's no Aesop's fables moral to the story here, and they sort of leave it as is with like a shock ending. And that shock ending,
hey, literally, you're right. It is a bad. It's like you're playing Silent Hill, and you got the bad ending. Like,
you got the bad ending, and it's like, is that really an ending? I don't know. Maybe I'm biased. Maybe I just like the original more, but I feel like the original at least has something to say. This ending.
They're all dead.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to say.
From what I remember from the original, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they're all, they get turned, but he dies at the end, and it's like, you got your comeuppance,
Right, well, at the end there, he brings his wife back.
Yeah.
And she's,
And he gets his, like, oh,
exactly.
And he gets his comeuppance. Here, they're all turned into one happy zombie family.
Yeah, and I just think that doesn't really have much to say about the themes. Is like, and I'm not even looking for a theological, like, does God exist theme. I'm just looking more for, like, is there anything to say about when you bring something back like that and dealing with grief? I don't think it's
It could have been a nice commentary on, like, bringing back franchises that have been dead.
Really? Do you think it applies to this one?
No, I'm just saying that could have been like a nice little commentary.
Yeah,
make it because everything's super meta now. You could have went that route, made it like super meta, and like make it like a commentary on, like, look at them just reviving all these dead franchises because money.
My disappointment was just that for all the darkness that's within this Pet Sematary, because it's very serious and foreboding and plotting and
which is why I think this is the whole reason they did this, is to, like I said, even though you say, and I would agree, and again, haven't seen the film in 15 years, the original is not meant to be taken as campy. It's supposed to be serious. It's a campy film.
Yeah, it ends up becoming that way.
Whether it is or not. So this is like, we gotta make it modern. So everything's gotta be fucking, brooding.
Yeah.
The whole color palette is just gray, bleak, Maine.
Even like all of the outdoor shots are still like what you would
foggy,
consider to be sunny.
Yeah.
It's not really. It's more like a overcast sky.
There's always over, and everything's super serious, and nothing's really tongue in cheek. It's everything's taken very seriously.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's kind of the whole purpose of why this remake is like, oh, we're gonna kind of tune it for a modern era to make it fit today by being much more brooding and serious in its tone.
One thing that I wish that they had really left out, even though I think that Jette Lawrence as Ellie does a fairly good job as being a kid, I wish they would have left out people talking after they come back from the dead. Because I think that's where the scare element of being dead and coming back is lost. Because then you have that character turned into sort of like a Chucky character, where the characters like sort of now become demonic, and you're just spouting off like one-liners and things like that.
It's like an exorcist.
Yeah, exactly. And having the little girl growl and try to seem menacing.
I think it would have been interesting to kind of see though it's brought back and it's this evil entity now, but trying to see like the soul of that character still entrenched in the body, and try to see like a fight going on there. Yeah. Because again, especially if they're doing this whole battle of, is there an afterlife? Is there not? What happens afterwards? They try to show something positive, like, even though, like, because essentially now, because of Lewis's actions, his daughter's soul is now damned to hell because of this. So it would have been interesting to try to see, like, some kind of battle there, between Elle, who's like kind of basically as a 9-year-old pure girl who doesn't have anything, like, trying to fight this.
Yeah.
It'd make more sense as kind of like an adult would be succumb to it more because they're older and they are going to be much more jaded. And the fact that happens, like, that essentially Lewis damns his daughter's soul to hell by what he does, the fact that his comeuppance is, well, he gets sent to Pet Sematary too and risen for,
Right.
That's there's
not much there.
There's not, not comeuppance. And the same thing. Rachel gets sent to Pet Sematary too, though she, thinks it's all fucking terrible and doesn't want it to happen and doesn't want to get sent there. So she gets damned. So basically Lewis damns his entire family because even though we don't get to see it at the end, Gage is going to get set, that's the whole ending, is when the happy family comes back from Pet Sematary with the Judd's house burning to the ground, and they're like, and Gage is like, hi, guess what? He's the one that's getting sent there next, so they can all be one happy undead family.
I think,
I think the Lewis's comeuppance is very, very weak. It's not even comeuppance. It's
I think the film's most successful tension does come from Ellie when she comes back, and it's those quiet moments where you're not really sure what she's going to do and what she is at this time.
Now, most scary movies don't kind of creep me out at all anymore, but this film does, I will say, use effective sound. When he's like brushing her hair and like the mats and like
yeah.
Oh, I don't know if you saw me, but I was fucking flinching. I'm like, oh god,
I think like those quiet moments.
And the same thing when they did it with the cat. I was like, oh god, like that's disgusting, like that's awful. Yeah. And I usually don't like cringe or get like creeped out. But same thing too when poor John Lithgow gets his Achilles slit. I was like, oh god, that's ooh, yeah, you know the sweet spots to get. It'd be like the Achilles or the knees.
Oh yeah, they definitely. I mean, they use that from the original, but then they changed it up a little bit because you're expecting it to come from underneath the bed, and it doesn't. So it's a little bit nice homage to that. But I think like the most effective moments with Ellie are when she's just completely quiet, especially when she's laying in bed in her like death dress.
Her she's got like a fucking lazy eye, and like once like sunk it. Yeah, it's like. And another eye like sunken. She's like,
I feel like just leaving it at that and just not even having her speak, just having her be there. And you can see the obvious like, do I want to lay next to this fucking thing? Within Lewis's face, like that in itself is enough suspense. You don't need her to then growl like, "Where's mommy?" Like that's overkill. I would have just rather them just let her
be a mute.
Yeah, be like a thing that has come back and now you're not really sure what is she gonna do. I think that's more effective than having it become like sort of a child's play joke.
Well, you get that at the end too when they're fighting in the cemetery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that like probably some of the dialogue is the worst elements in this Pet Sematary. They should have things could have been left unspoken. They could have cut things. The whole appearances of Victor, especially to Gage, the kid, they don't even make sense. It doesn't like it. I understand why Lewis sees the Victor as an entity that's warning him, but for Gage to see the entity
at the same time, though, it makes sense because again, going off the whole like Pascal's wager type thing, it makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, why is he doing that then?
Yeah, it like makes it has no bearing on it.
Because you have because it's more like did he have contact with Pet Sematary, like, or is he just basically like
there's really no connection,
like a siren, basically, like like there's nothing. It's just like, oh, he was there, and then he comes back from it was like making me think of like American Werewolf in London, like
exactly. That's like, exactly what it's like yeah.
But it with totally disjointed though, because it's like, oh, he died in DR, and
because he has no connection to Pet Sematary,
and then it's like
none.
It's like
it just
he had nothing to do. He's like, I tried to save you, and it's like, how the hell do you know about the demonic backyard?
I agree. That doesn't make sense. But
he must have been running from Derry because we know they don't like black people there.
So we didn't talk about
John Lithgow.
John Lithgow, yeah. So what do you think?
Sometimes that is better. I'm glad they put that in there.
They at least got that line. And they had sometimes the ground of man is stonier, or whatever that line is. They got that one in there too.
The ground is sour.
Then they got the sour ground in there too. Are you glad that they left it out? You don't want to go down that road. I probably. I mean, though I would love to hear John Lithgow say that, I think that would be like way.
I think at times too they had him speaking way like kind of like Cajun, and I don't know why. But at random points he was kind of like going like, "You think she's gonna be going down that?" Like when he's like talking.
Stop over for some carnes. Yeah.
Well, when he's like when he's talking to Elle, like in the Pet Sematary, like, "You think you should go back to your mom, over that?" And it's like, what? Like, why are you talking like you're from Maine? And then when he's like, have a good day. And it's like, that's John Lithgow. That's like John Lithgow, like just like breaking out into John Lithgow. Being like, oh, have a good day over there, but
make sure you wash the mud off. Put some of that salve on it. Yeah.
A word that does not get used enough, salve.
I think that he does a good job in this film. I
think he's better than Fred Gwynn.
Yeah, for playing it up seriously, for sure.
But, and I he's definitely the best actor, because I don't think low rent Parks and Rec dad is good, because he's just like I said, he sounds like this movie should have taken down the Bayou. Like, Pet Sematary is down on fucking by Saint Denis, Yeah. Because he's like sitting there like mumbling like he's got like crawdads in his mouth, like, oh honey, sometimes when they die, go down there and things like And then Rachel, Amy, she's just all right.
Yeah.
I mean, but she doesn't really get much to do.
That's true. They just kind of make her into annoying mom.
Well, mom. Honestly, not annoying mom, but just like stereotypical concerned wife.
Yeah.
Like questioning the idiot male.
True.
Which, is
I did think she was a little bit annoying because she does, I understand her grief in the moment of, I just lost a kid, grieving. And then she just winds up leaving her grieving husband home alone while she goes to stay with her parents. I get the grief. I get it. It's kind of a dick move because you're both grieving. Kind of a dick move. Just like, I'm taking the kids and leaving.
But John Lithgow is easily the best part of the film. He's, such a joy.
There's a couple moments where he just is like a nice, and you get that, you get like a nice like feeling from him.
The problem I have though, and it's not with him, but it's more like this is where it goes back to like the whole like storytelling aspect, is he says he once buried his dog. Him and his dad buried his dog there, and it came back wrong.
Right.
So, but then
he explains that it was always kind of an asshole. So.
Yeah. So he thought this time with church it might be different, and he's got regrets and whatnot. But is he constantly being pulled to that place by the magic? Is he or is he just an asshole? Because he comes off as a very nice, likable person.
I don't think he's being an asshole. I think he legitimately, at least with church, he thinks like the church is a really nice cat. Maybe it'll work this time. But you would expect for him, and it looks like people have done this before. Like there were like 5 or 6 cairns there. So you would think like they would be stumbling through his backyard.
Well, you think. Well, you also think too. You're going up the top of this place and you see it's nothing but clouds, thunder, and lightning. Like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Yeah,
This one's gonna work out.
You know what? You know what would cure my grief over my dead daughter? Going up on top of that fucking mountain and going to the Indian burial ground, seeing fucking Hades itself, and being like,
okay.
You know what? Sometimes dead. You know what?
He's in a better place.
He's right. Sometimes dead is better. Yeah,
that's
that.
I do think that it's kind of funny that and I get grief too, and you make bad decisions when you have grief. But I do think it's funny that like church came back and he just had like so many problems with church.
Yeah, and
he was just like, you know what though, Ellie's different. I'm gonna try her in there.
Which, by the way, dumbest way for her to die.
Well, I have a problem with the
fucking oil tanker.
I have a problem with the literal element of the oil tanker coming off of the actual truck and slamming into her, because there is no way they would be able to hug and have a nice open casket burial for her after that oil tanker crushed her entire body. They just wouldn't. I mean, the logistics of that would be like, I expected to see a fucking blood skid mark, and they were hugging the pavement because that's all that's left of Ellie at that point. But no, she's wholly intact and been pushed off into the brush.
Well, also that CGI that they used for when it disconnected.
Of it coming from her.
That's terrible.
Yeah, I did have a problem with the whole tanker thing.
I only saw one trailer, but I didn't remember. But you could totally tell, like, telegraphed going into the movie, like, it's not going to be gauged. That gets, it's going to...
Yeah, they didn't pull the hereditary aspect in this film of being completely harrowing for killing a child. And I think if you're going to kill a child, which has been particularly taboo for whatever reason throughout movie history, if you're going to do it, just fucking do it. Like, if you're going to do it, make it count, make it stick, make it feel...
impactful.
Horrible for your audience. Like, that's what Hereditary does. Hereditary, when you watch it, it feels horrible. You feel literally sick. You're like, good Lord, that is like the worst feeling in the world. In Pet Sematary, they make it seem like death for Ellie was like almost fairly non-violent.
Just passed in her sleep.
Yeah, just, she literally just got punched by a trailer. That was not like a nice and non-violent death. You would have been crushed. Her body, like if he had picked her up, she probably would have shifted all over the place, like being like somewhat bodily jelly. and it's just like the logistics of it for a film that's like completely serious about that. That did take me out because I was like, "There's no way that she's just wholly intact in a field."
Should have came back from Pet Sematary like. Fucking, Which also I don't get. Why is there like staples in her head?
Well, they did apparently an autopsy, and perhaps they. I don't know why they would have done an autopsy actually, because it would have been like,
she died.
It's clear she got punched by an oil tanker,
all her bones have been crushed.
Yeah,
but
perhaps maybe they needed to sew it because the flying across pavement ripped her head open. I don't know. But,
I was thinking more because they were hinting towards like something that like as she rose from Pet Sematary.
No, I think it was more
because I don't think like they were thinking of the logistics of like
I'm not
like that like you were about the whole thing because the way the whole scene transpired. Yeah. I wasn't thinking of like, oh yeah, because from like an autopsy or like she got fucking skid marked on the road. They had to put her back together. Yeah, like, it was more like...
Yeah, and what they had to do was, when... Actually, they didn't show it, but when she got thrown, her skull actually separated from her skin, and they had to staple it back together to have a nice little... No, I don't know.
It was more hinted like it was something that, like the demons of the underworld, like...
Though I find mortuary studies interesting, I don't know if they actually do like a cranial opening to do like formaldehyde and stuff for preservation. I don't know if they do that. So it could have been that, but
it takes a special person to have that job.
But I did, that did take me out of it a little bit because they do things very, very seriously, and especially like that initial car accident with Victor. Like that's pretty graphic. They show like even the nurse comes in and she's like, his brain's
I know. That's the show. They were in small town Maine. You know, like, oh my god, it's like,
I could see his brain.
It's like what?
Yeah. So
apparently nothing bad happens there.
So like they do that super brutal, but then they have.
Which also at the same time that looked fake too. You know, like CGI'd in.
It's so. I did have a problem with Ellie's death because I just wanted him to go all in. If you're going to do that and you're going to make it count, just, go the whole...
I still don't get why they opened up to the film with the ending of, like, that.
Yeah, it's a very... Like, is it just supposed to suck you in because then you got another 80 minutes of not that much happening to...
More than that.
To go through?
More than
Yeah. Because I do think that Pet Sematary...
I knew, like, from the opening, it's like, okay, this is the ending of the film.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, it's not like I'm a fucking genius on calling that, but it's like, when you get to the ending, it's like, so why was that? You didn't need that. You could have just started off with, hey, we're moving to Maine. Yeah. It's going to be so much.
I think Pet Sematary is extremely slow for what we get out of it. So at 100 minutes, I think 100 minutes would have been fine if the film had been able to pace itself a little bit better with the tension, because for long periods of time, like really nothing is happening, and you get a lot of moments of just like Lewis being like pondering, why is church acting strange?
Mr. Medical Doctor.
what about that cemetery? What does that mean? And you just like a lot of
you're basically just sitting there going like, John Lithgow, more John Lithgow. Get away from him. We want more John Lithgow.
A lot of Pet Sematary is just Lewis pondering things, life, pondering death, pondering what it means when he's visited by Victor. And I just think that some of that could have been cut.
I say also, I can't remember. Did Judd bury his wife in Pet Sematary?
It sounds like he did, because he says they do say something about like joining her
in hell.
Yeah,
but at the same time,
you don't really know.
So it sounds like he did, because he says like, "You're not my,"
right.
So,
but it also could be not, because he also says it's never been done before. He's like, "What did you do?" Because it's never been done to bury a human there before. So it's hard to say.
All I know is I feel bad for Judd, just because even though he made mistakes, his heart was in the right place, and
absolutely.
I don't know if it's worth the damnation, No,
yeah, his heart was totally in the right place, because he just did it for Ellie, because he was like, she loves that cat.
But at the same time, his heart's in the right place, but at the same time, again, like, most people, even if you're in grief, you're going up to some fucking mountainside, and you got thunder and lightning crashing in this fucking very ominous fog. You'll be snapped out of whatever.
You had a long time to think about that. That's a long journey. It makes it seem like
that hike seems like you're going up. When they started walking up those like very steep like steps, I'm like, what is this, Skyrim? They're going to the throat of the world, like going to see going to see the Greybeards.
Definitely a long hike to think about that. Like, am I doing the right thing? Yeah, I
don't know. I just wish they like, instead of pissing away time spending around with like people like sitting around like kind of like I wonder what. Spending more time actually developing like Judd and Rachel and Lewis, and like actually showing more of their character.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest flaw of the film.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rachel is probably the least developed character in this film. So,
and at the same time, too, I don't understand the change and why it's Ellie, being the one to get killed instead of Gage.
I don't either, really. I don't know why that would make it more impactful.
I think the only reason is kind of like what you're saying. One, they can't kill a 2-year-old these days. You'd have a fucking tweet storm on your hands.
Yeah,
and also it'd be a lot easier having a 9-year-old come back from the dead, because if they're playing the same act, have the same actress do it, so it'd be like logistically easier, because you're just like, okay, now you're gonna be undead. Woo! Watch me do ballet.
The oddest part about it is that they didn't save it for people seeing the film. They legitimately spoiled it in the trailer. And that was like, it's weird because...
Good, they're going back to the 70s where they tell the whole story in the trailer.
But it's weird because it seems like they wanted people to still think it was Gage that was going to be the one that would be killed in that accident, because the whole thing plays out like Gage is going to be the one that gets hit by the truck in the film. So I feel like the trailer, whoever cut the trailer, actually did a disservice.
I think it's more that it's been 30 fucking years since the film, and so now they're just like, it's a new audience.
Try something different.
So, like, the most people who are going to probably be seeing this are either... basically, the audience coming to see this film are going to be the people who saw the fucking original,
right?
A tiny amount, and younger people who haven't seen the original.
True.
So if you spoil that twist away, which, again, isn't even really a twist, because the fact that they spend so much time focusing on Ellie and her, her as a kid, it's not really spoiling it. It's, it's something new.
Just setting it up.
Yeah. So that's my thought. I don't think it's right.
Yeah.
Especially because the whole...
I think it's probably
part of the iconic outside of,
I think it's just
Fred Gwynn being iconic in the original Pet Sematary and the cat. It's also the fucking kid coming back from the 2-year-old coming back from the dead. So...
And I think it's probably just hard to find a good 2-year-old actor.
I had to have 4 cats.
Yeah. It's hard. And I mean, even this 2-year-old Gage is played by 2 kids.
Well, they're
twins.
I would say they do the whole twin thing.
They did a twin thing. So it's probably just hard to find a good 2-year-old actor to actually portray things.
Well, it's almost kind of like, why even bother having him in there then?
That is true too. Yeah.
You could have just had Ellie be the one sole kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that would make it even more impactful too, because if it's your only child, your only child that died,
you're pretty fucked up.
that would give you more reason to,
Want to bring her back.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at least with another kid, you have another kid to take care of. You got to look after them.
God, if it was the fucking 1700s, every kid that died of cholera,
Yeah.
fucking, that Pet Sematary would be littered with,
All right, so we got to rate this sucker. And on a rating scale of 10 campfire blanket naps, what would you give Pet Sematary 2019?
I'll give it a 6.5. I was thinking about giving it a 7, but 6.5, because the more I kind of think about it, thematically, it just doesn't work as well as I think it could have. I do think it's still an enjoyable watch, even though at 100 minutes, which when you told me is an hour and 40, I was like, thank the fucking... A film decided to be restrained in itself and not, breach the 2-hour mark. I do think it could have been a 90-minute film, and they could have been... I just wish the direction and storytelling was more focused thematically, because I hate it when films introduce ideas and themes and they don't really follow up on them. Yeah, it's okay for them to leave them open-ended, so you leave as an audience questioning, like, what you should take away from it. But the fact it's so just very vague and they don't go into depth in it, it's very annoying.
Yeah.
I think the effects overall in this film are alright. The CGI, when they use practical effects, it looks good. CGI, not so much. I do like that in this remake, the best part of the remake is the setting, the fact that they made it more wooded, the fact that they made it more gray and foggy, and it's a lot creepier than the original Pet Sematary, where it's just a fucking it looks like John Mellencamp's filming Pink House's music video on the side of the road. Actors, very bland. I do think the girl who played Ellie, though, as a child actor, very good, very enjoyable, not an annoying child actress. Though she did a really good job. And John Lithgow, though great, I don't think he got enough to work with. I think they could have done a lot more with him in this film, especially, again, exploring his backstory, because they leave it, again, very vague. And the downer ending, I'm a big fan of downer endings, but it just doesn't really kind of make sense. After everything that happened in the film, the ending of it just doesn't really make that much sense. Mm-hmm. So I'd say it's a 6.5. I can't honestly tell you right now if it's better than the original or not, because again, it's been 15 years since I've seen the original, so though I remember bits and pieces of it, and like mainly the iconic parts of it, I couldn't give you a good comparison of it. But I do think this is, because your dad was kind of scoffing at the film, like, well, yeah, woo, and giving little Paul Rudd noises. But as I said to you, it's one of the least offensive remakes I've ever seen, which you could take either way. Could be a sin or it could be okay, because the fact that it's least offensive means it probably didn't try enough to do something different and new and innovative, but at the same time wasn't bastardizing the product. So take that either way.
Yeah, I would give it a 6. I think that it's an okay film, but you're right. I think when you say that it's not really an offensive remake, I do take that sort of in a bad way, because it doesn't really do that much to try to go past whatever the original did. It doesn't do much different. It changes some character elements and it changes some particular story elements, but for the most part, it doesn't really change the dynamic in that original film. It pretty much follows it closely, and then the only change is to the end, which I think is a detriment to this film. It actually makes the theme lessened because of it. So I think that that issue with it being a non-offensive remake is sort of a problem, that it doesn't really try that hard to do anything different. I think that it's an okay film with scares, and I think that the tension is there. It's just not overutilized. I think that Ellie's, the actress who plays Ellie, does a fairly good job. I wish they had left out dialogue for her when she comes back from the dead. I think it would have been a lot more effective. And we see some scenes that are effective because of that. But others turn out to be sort of like one-liner, child's play, Chucky type things, and it just doesn't work that well. That's where a lot of like kids-driven horror films fail, because they try to make cute little kids into something scary, and they're just not that great at delivering that. And so they're best off relying on other elements like silence and just the menacing nature of the suspense of them being there. Like I said, I don't think that the ending works very well, and I think there are a few other elements here that really should have been cut. Victor as a character that reoccurs should have been cut. Should have just been, it doesn't even need to be there. I know they were trying to follow along with the original Pet Sematary in that sense, but here it really does play out like they copied an American Werewolf. Yeah, it seems exactly like that, to the detriment of the film. It doesn't really add anything. It's a lot of pointless filler. And sometimes it doesn't even make sense, like why that would occur.
And he only shows up like 3 times too.
Yeah,
it just hospital, and then like when he gets up, he's about to go to Pet Sematary to bury Ellie, and then I think like one other time before that.
Yeah, and he appears to Gage, and it doesn't make sense. And yeah, they should have just left that completely out. And I think at an hour and 40 minutes, this film runs a little long. They should have paced it a little bit better. I think that there's too many slow parts to the first, hour of the film where it just doesn't really take off.
Which is a shame, too, because it is a film that a slow pace would work in its, favor. Again, slowly building up to it. And again, that's where you could have spent the time learning more about Lewis and his, going more into his beliefs, and Rachel and more, and Judd and his backstory. But they spent so much time kind of hinting at it and kind of being very surface layered at it, and then they, it's like, oh, that's just there, and then you spend 45 minutes just to get there instead of actually delving into it, and then when you get to the end for all their character arcs, it's like, well, wasn't that pointless, instead of them actually doing something with it.
Yeah, it's just that the pacing is just a little off, and it just doesn't take off like it should. So 6 out of 10 for me. I did appreciate that they included the original theme, Pet Sematary, in here.
Not the Ramones
version. Not done by Ramones, but stick around for that last credits. So that you hear that. I appreciate it as an homage. So
maybe think of it like if it's like the ending, like Spider-Man. That's why I feel like it's going to be the end credits song to Spider-Man: Far From Home. It's going to be like another Ramones song, like Pet Sematary.
Yep.
I will say, too, though, you say it doesn't do enough to kind of change the formula as a remake. I agree, but at the same time, after we reviewed Suspiria, the remake of Suspiria, and how totally different it was as a film, it's an expectation we can't really hold in our hearts that often, because it's a very rare thing.
True.
And I think the most offensive form would be like a shot-for-shot remake like Psycho was.
Oh, yeah.
So the
just
fact,
like completely the same.
Where it becomes a total redundancy. This, I don't think is a total, I don't think this film is so super similar to where it's redundant.
It's true.
Because you could say the same thing with like the remake of Night of the Living Dead from 1990.
Yep.
Even though Tom Savini's film is good, it is kind of redundant.
Yeah.
Because it's basically the same goddamn thing as the original, except Barbara's not an idiot this time.
It's true. Yeah.
And it's in color.
Yeah. All right, so we are going to be back in 2 weeks, right?
With Thanos.
Yeah, right. That will be
Thanos and Thanos and Thanos.
I just need to make sure that that's actually going to be work out for us, because we would see it on Sunday, April 28th, and today is the 16th. So next week we would record it this 23rd. Yep.
30th.
Yep. That'll work. It'll be Avengers. I just had to make sure that the logistics of it worked out. It'll be Avengers Endgame when we're back in 2 weeks. So we're finally finishing out that era of Marvel film.
3 hours. Good God.
3 hours long. So buckle up, because this is probably going to be a long episode.
ScarJo better have her boobies out.
All right. So catch us next time for Avengers Endgame. We are on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever you want to call it. Google Podcasts, Stitcher, any other podcasting app that you might know of. We're on it. You can find us on there, subscribe, and leave us a nice review. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Blood-and-Back-Rum Podcast.
Really? Oh God, in Google, really? They have Captain Marvel billed third?
Yeah.
Above Thor and, oh God, no one's gonna see this movie. Women!
We're on Twitter at Blood and Black Rum. We have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. Write to us, tell us what you want us to cover. And you can also donate to us on our Patreon page at patreon.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. Donate to us, and it keeps our podcast running. Thank you for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks with Avengers Endgame, and we can't wait to hear what you think about that movie. So we'll see you then.
Take care.